Team CompTrain. I wanted to create this short video for us to share some concepts as we head into Madison. My original intention was to actually try to get us all in the same room. That way I can shake your hand, put some names to faces, and really just kind of spend some time with you. But I will get that this weekend, which I'm happy about. What I want to do is really, in truth, respect your time. Check-in process at the games is always an unknown, and the most important thing we can do is get settled in, get ready, and focus on day one. Now, the purpose behind this is that I'd like to share with you some concepts we can walk into the weekend thinking on. Now, as you know, here at CompTrain, we deeply believe in the power of the mind and how our thoughts and our beliefs shape our world. Our personality, how we think, how we act, how we feel, equals our reality. And the first thing I'd like to ask you is, what's your why? Why are you here? Why are you about to compete this weekend? I know it's a big, lofty question. It can go in many ways, but let's truly think about it. Because if we can do that, if we can define why we're here, the power we can draw from this statement is powerful beyond measure. Because here's the thing, everybody has goals. It may be this weekend to win the CrossFit Games. And trust me when I say this, there's nothing more I want than to see you reach your goals. Of course I want that. But the piece I want us to recognize is that goals do not drive behavior. What does is reasons. The reasons we have those goals is what gets us up in the morning. The reasons we have those goals is what pushes us to achieve greatness. It's a deep, massive, emotional set of reasons. Just as an example, let's take an individual who has the goal of losing weight. And let's call her Mary. She's 170 pounds and she wants to trim down to 140. The 30-pound weight loss is the goal, but that's only the surface. As it turns out, Mary comes from a family who has a history of obesity and diabetes, and nearly all the females in her family passed away by the age of 60. She's 40 years old right now, and Mary has 2 young daughters. Mary's reason for getting up in the morning is to prove that history, genetics, trends, they don't dictate her life. And to her daughters and for generations to come, she's going to prove that you can be different. And when her kids move out of the house someday, start their own families, they don't need to believe that they are going to be overweight. They have a choice. Compare that reason, that why, to another individual who just put the goal down of losing weight on a piece of paper. We can all agree that one is far more powerful than the other. Now, defining this why is actually supposed to be very, very challenging. And that's actually even on a physiological level. There's an incredible speaker called Simon Sinek. You've probably seen me quote a handful of times on our CompTrain Daily Mindset, his work, and one of the pieces he speaks on is the fact that we have 2 brains. The first brain we have is called the neocortex. The neocortex is responsible for analytical thought. I'll make this purchase because it's more affordable than that one. Or I'll go with this rental car because it's in the airport and it makes our travel just a little bit easier. The second brain we have is called the limbic brain. The limbic brain is responsible for all decision making. It's also belief, trust, love, pride. It's what drives our behavior in all of our decisions. Yet what's unique to it is that there's no capacity for language inside the limbic brain. This is why we'll often find ourselves saying something like, this just feels right, or I can't put my finger on it, but I feel like we should go right and not left. Or describing love. Who could describe the feeling of love? It's very, very challenging. It's because that side of our brain can't actually put those into words, at least very easily. So this should be hard, it should be a challenge, but it's there. It's the reason why you're here. You didn't make it to this stage by accident. There's a deep, powerful why within you, and as we enter this weekend, let's take a moment to put it in the forefront of our minds. And when I say the forefront, constantly reminding ourselves of it this weekend is the single most powerful thing we can do. Let's use our example again of Mary, our pre-diabetic mom whose goal is to lose weight. Let's express her goal, but in 2 ways. First, let's depict the goal with the what at the forefront. And then we'll say it again, but in reverse, with the why at the forefront. It's completely different. Starting with the what, Mary may say something like this. I'm going to lose 30 pounds by the time I reach 45 so I can show my daughters what it means to be healthy. Good, but not super powerful. If we start with the why at the forefront, Mary may say something like this: I believe that we are not destined by genetics or family history, that we have a choice in life, that we can rewrite what was once believed to be our fate. I will prove that to my daughters in living action, that they too can be whoever they dream to be when they grow up. Much more powerful statement. And inside that, I actually didn't even mention her what, her weight loss. Because often enough, the whats are not that important. It's the whys. And when we dial in the why, the whats, whatever those may be, they tend to actually fall into place. All right, that was a good amount on our why, but we do believe it to be that important. From both a fulfillment standpoint and a performance standpoint, when we're fully in awareness of what we're after, our reasons behind, we can then and only then give our full effort, focusing truly on what we can control. Without it, in such an exciting weekend that is ahead, our minds can get pulled in different directions, often invoking more of a sense of chaos than of focus. Redefining our why centers us on the confidence we need to give our best effort. This next shorter piece I'd like to offer is another exercise, one called fear setting. So fear setting is a term I first learned from Tim Ferriss. In short, fear setting is coming to terms with challenging situations, acknowledging fears and putting them where they belong. As an exercise before the start of the games, it could be as simple as this. Write down something that could go wrong, our response to it, and how we overcome it. If a judge gives us a no rep, what does that mean? What do we do? If heats get mixed up and we end up standing in the corral area for 20 minutes, what does that mean? What do we do? What's our response? We can complete that for as many instances as we can. Now, the purpose behind this is not to dwell on what-if situations or to get hung up on all the challenges we may face. Instead, it's recognizing the fears we may have, once we put thought into them, are actually just minor speed bumps along the road that we can easily overcome. They're no longer fears, but rather just parts of the path. It can be as simple as that. It's less of a game plan of how to deal with specific adversity, as we can't possibly prepare for every single exact situation, but instead it's a mindset. Whatever it is, I will overcome it. If we just framed our fears, let's go one step beyond that. Let's frame the thought of winning. So there isn't an individual at the games that doesn't want to win. It'd be absolutely silly to say otherwise. A fear, to put it out there, is the fear of not doing well. No one really wants to talk about that, think about that, but it's a pressure that we all collectively feel. We are human beings. It's natural to feel that. How can we respond to that? And even better, how can we overcome that? We speak often about giving our best effort, where best effort is our very best in that specific moment regardless of the circumstances. That's actually how we define mental toughness. To move a little bit deeper, connecting these two thoughts, the fear of losing can be combated with a new interpretation of what it means to win. Now, this is an individual question. What does winning mean for us at the CrossFit Games? If we think along the lines of truly focusing on what we can control, what actions that we do result in us chalking up the experience to be a win? Fast forward to Monday morning after the games, or even Sunday night. The competition's over, and we're reflecting on the experience. How do we want to feel? And then, what actions must we take in between now and then to leave us that way? The fear of doing poorly is forecasting to a spot on the leaderboard after the weekend's over. When we put it that way, it's easy for us to see that we shouldn't embrace that fear. But without redefining the opposite, what it means to thrive, to excel, to win at the games, it's very hard to combat. Redefine it, to win. It's an interpretation. To wrap up this topic of fear setting, I want to take a moment to speak to uncertainty. When we move through this exercise of fear setting or listing out what could go wrong, we may realize that there's a lot of uncertainty that takes place at the games. This is actually a great thing. There's another amazing speaker named Ed Milet who believes that the quality of life is directly proportionate to the amount of uncertainty that we can handle. I think that quote is so powerful, I want to read it again. The quality of life is directly proportionate to the amount of uncertainty that we can handle. When things are certain, we don't really experience life. Things are monotonous and expected. We don't even remember the action that took place. Because we're on autopilot, we already know what's going to happen. But when we face uncertainty, we truly turn alive. Think back to the most fun, enjoyable experiences of life. And we can recognize how full of uncertainty they were. Your first date, your wedding day, traveling overseas for the first time, going down a roller coaster for the first time. Uncertainty breeds excitement. And successful people, they seek it out. They're actually addicted to it. Finding what makes them uncomfortable, learning and experiencing from that. It creates memories. It's what makes us feel alive. So this weekend, let's embrace uncertainty. It's an amazing thing. The last thought process to share today is along those same lines of interpretation. Let's focus on the thoughts we tell ourselves throughout the competition, or known as, let's control our perceptions. What will be the story we tell ourselves at the games this year? What will be the emotions we feel? Despite any obstacle or adversity, from the smallest to the most catastrophic, this statement will always hold true. We have complete control over our perceptions. How we think, how we act, how we feel, it's a choice. And that choice becomes your identity. It's who we are. And whatever that identity is, it will drive our behavior. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. There's a term for this called the reticular activation system. What we train our subconscious mind to think about, we constantly think about. Have you ever been in the market for a new car, and let's say that new car was a silver Jeep? Suddenly on the road, when you're driving to work, all you see are silver Jeeps. They're seemingly everywhere, and you catch them in the corner of your eye 4 blocks down, something you would never see unless you were thinking about buying one. What we tell our subconscious becomes our reality. Tony Robbins has a very powerful quote. The subconscious mind will prove you right. If we move into events with doubt, with fear, with worry, the subconscious mind will prove us right. It's not about the external, how we present ourselves. It's about the inner self coach writing the story to ourselves of the games. The subconscious choice we make right now becomes that self-fulfilling prophecy. Now this is very challenging. It's a funny thing that the human mind, and this is everybody, tends to focus on the negative. It may be because we have a very strong survival mechanism, and thousands of years ago, running away from predators was the most important thing, so we gotta focus on the dangers in life. But that doesn't mean we can't reprogram that. We tell the subconscious mind what to see. It doesn't control us. We tell it what to see. It's a conscious choice. And I know sometimes this stuff sounds a little bit soft, but I promise you, it is performance enhancing. The most successful people in the world, they embrace this concept, positive thinking, because they know this is how you perform your best. We're going to tell ourselves a story. It's up to us what that is. Okay, to wrap this up, I want to offer a third and final exercise. One that we can do every morning at the games immediately after we wake up. And this has honestly nothing to do directly with the CrossFit Games. I want you to ask yourself 3 questions in the morning. And these 3 are from Tony Robbins. And this builds upon the last topic we just spoke on, controlling our subconscious mind. When we wake up, the first thing that 99% of people do is worry. And this is very true at the CrossFit Games. What many athletes will do is wake up with the first thoughts being on the day's competition. How do we feel? How sore are we? How are we preparing? How's the event's going to go today? All important things, but 6 seconds after we open our eyes, it's not the right time for them. As we wake, I want you to ask yourself these 3 questions. Number 1, what am I grateful for in my life right now? Why? Number 2, why am I excited about life right now? Why? And number 3, what am I proud about in my life right now? And why? When we ask ourselves these questions in the morning, we start our day away from worry and instead in gratitude. And by starting our day in such a fashion, we start that new self-fulfilling prophecy, now seeking out reasons throughout the day to better answer these questions. With our thoughts driving our behavior, this is a very powerful morning routine. And with such an exciting weekend ahead, this could be a strong way to organize the chaos, the very fun, exciting, uncertain chaos, however, still the chaos. It should be, as we know it's fun. So now to sign off, I'm going to finish with one final quote I'd love to share with you guys. And that's by Michael Jordan. Don't be afraid to fail. Be afraid not to try. If there's one thing we can do this weekend, one thing, it's to leave no doubt. No doubt that I gave my best, that I worked my ass off, that I enjoyed every opportunity that I could take, that I left it all out there. Everything. If we can only do that, everything else will fall into place. Team, safe travels everybody, whether flying or driving, and looking forward to seeing everybody. This is Harry signing off.